Here.
Michael,
Here.
Lane,
Here.
Murdoch,
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Thank you, council. Everyone's present, Mayor.
Thank you. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our first item tonight is a public hearing on the vacation of an easement on the DeSoto School District West Campus. Information on this was in your packets. Mike, was there any opening remarks you wanted to give us?
I could introduce the topic now, talk about it now, just for the sake of the audience, briefly.
Sure.
So this is an action that we've done previously, about 5 years ago. There's a public water line that loops around the high school property, and it's in the way of their upcoming expansion to add the auditorium onto the southwest corner. So they're going to need to relocate that public water line. So the existing one, I've shown on the map here, this is kind of the southwest corner of the high school building. The auditorium addition is shown in this gray box. The purple shaded area is the easement where the existing water line is in, and then the pink shaded area will be the relocated water line. So the action tonight is just to vacate this easement that's shown in purple. The district's already granted the easement that's in pink, and they will relocate the water line as part of the project to expand to add the auditorium. So tonight's action is just a public hearing to vacate that public easement.
Right. All right, so with that introduction, I will officially open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak to the council regarding the vacation of this easement? All right. Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing.
And we'll take action on it in the regular
It's
agenda.
on our agenda is business item 4A under new business. First item, regular item, is our consent agenda, approval of the minutes from our council meeting of February 18th and approval of pay ordinance number 897. Any discussion of the consent agenda or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, Mayor.
Okay. Next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There is a 4-minute time limit. If you wish to speak, please stand and let me recognize you and then state your name and address. Yes, you're already standing. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Pizzullo.
Oh, will you go to the podium, please? Thanks.
I don't think the mic's plugged in though.
It's not gonna work. If we don't have the mic plugged in, our audience on YouTube can't hear you.
Sorry
So-
about for you.
Sorry you didn't expect me to come, right?
You can tell it's been a while.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Pizzullo. I live at 30755 West 84th Circle. And thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I have been a citizen of DeSoto since 1999, probably more importantly, a homeowner and a taxpayer the entire time. My neighborhood is all here. I've got a lot of people behind me that are all vested in your community. So on behalf of Cedar Junction Estates, I'm here to represent our neighborhood. Our neighborhood has some of the highest taxes in DeSoto. With our taxes, our neighborhood does not have the same amenities as many other areas of DeSoto. We do not have streetlights, we do not have sewer, we do not have sidewalks. However, we're not requesting those amenities. What we are requesting is our roads to be resurfaced with asphalt and not chip and seal. Our roads have not been resurfaced since prior to 2007. I have provided you each a packet of our proposal. We also included a signed petition that every single homeowner in our entire 2 streets have signed. This also includes our request for asphalt to include the following. We want to ensure our maintaining our home values. We want to reduce the risk of injury, not only to our children, to ourselves, but to the damage to the vehicles. We want to allow our children to ride their bikes, scooters, rollerblades on surfaces, as well as the walkers that take advantage of this. We want to eliminate the road erosion that's affecting our properties. I also included pictures of our damaged streets in the farther back of your pages. We also put a comparison of the neighboring subdivision with the new asphalt resurfacing that occurred in Rick Marr recently. This is across Corliss Road. Please note, they received $25,000 less in tax revenue than our subdivision with 2 additional homes. New subdivisions with less vested ownership just received new sidewalks in DeSoto. Again, we're not asking for most of the amenities of the city, but we are requesting the maintenance and resurfacing of our roads. Finally, you will also see an example of some case law of neighboring Overland Park, where the city was held liable for an accident related for failure to make repairs. We have made several complaints regarding our roads. We don't want our taxes to pay for a lawsuit. We want those to go to fixing our roads. Finally, as a taxpayer for 21 years and a representative of my neighborhood, we are requesting these asphalted streets for what I discussed: maintaining our tax values, safety, supporting our children, walkers, and those utilizing the roads, and stopping the erosion. Thank you for your consideration of our request.
All right, thank you. Mike, as I recall, this was in our street program this year, these streets.
Yeah, it's not often that we have a petition like this at the council meeting and already have plans to essentially to do exactly what the petitioners are asking. Yes, so we'll be out to bid next week to repave all of the roads in your neighborhood with asphalt.
Yeah, 4-inch asphalt overlay.
I'm sorry?
4-inch asphalt overlay.
Yeah, so
It was the January 21st meeting.
yeah, it'll be an asphalt overlay, and in addition, there's some edgework repairs to do. So we're going to be excavating the outer 4 foot of either side, reinstalling a compacted gravel base, and then putting 3 inches of at least 3 inches of asphalt over the top of that. So yeah, that is the plan.
Fantastic.
And essentially, what we're doing here is the same thing we did down on Post Oak Drive, Post Oak Circle, down in the Cherryville subdivision. So we're matching the elevation of the existing at the edges, but then putting some crown in it too, so the drainage is a little better. So
Thank you.
we'll be taking those bids next month, and they'll be at the council hopefully in April. Summertime construction.
Summertime 2021?
Summertime. No, it'll be
Yeah,
this
this
summer.
summer, this year.
Sometime
Okay.
before Halloween for certain, but I
Yeah.
would say before Labor Day, hopefully.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for letting me speak. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Yeah, it's been a while.
We haven't had a full house in a while. Anyone else under call to public wish to speak? Come on up and give us your name and address.
My name is Andrea Morris. I'm a representative of Cityscape Properties regarding a property at 8225 Delaware. We are a company that purchases and rehabs properties. Our owners are JD and Candace Asbell. They have lived here in DeSoto since 1994. We were contacted by the owner of the house on Delaware a couple of weeks ago about purchasing the property. We've since found out that it is under a demolition order. We have, you should have a letter that I sent in through Pat last week. So we're just here to request formally that you hold off on the demolition long enough for us to get through the title work process to close on that property and make the rehabs necessary to it.
Okay. Mike or Patrick, so we have we contacted the contractor to?
Yeah, we have, and Patrick, you've been
Yeah.
involved.
We did and asked them to pause on the demolition part, but we did ask them for prices to go ahead with the asbestos testing.
Okay.
And that, they provided that to us, and So our thought is to at least get that out of the way, in this interim period, but yeah, we've been in touch, they understand the situation and they're, there's no risk that it'll be torn down, but we just didn't really wanna have you guys do any formal action, because if for some reason
Right.
this, falls through, we can pick up right where we were
Yep.
before and
What is
proceed.
the anticipated time frame for your,
So I talked with the title company today. They've got the preliminary report back. It does look like it's going to require a decree of descent because of the heirs and the owners of the property. In our experience, that is typically takes 12 to 16 weeks, depending on the court system. Once that is done, it could close within usually 2 weeks after that court hearing, and then we're prepared to begin the renovations immediately after.
so this, potentially could be another 4 to 5 months, it sounds like?
Potentially.
Okay.
They're still figuring out all of the title stuff, so if they can find where that decree of descent has already occurred, then it will be faster.
Okay. Well, I think we're all in agreement, we don't want to demolish a house that somebody wishes to make, put back into the market, so.
Yep.
We don't want it to get drug out forever, though,
Correct, right.
so there.
Neither do we.
Understood. Okay,
So, thank you.
Mayor,
sir.
I just wonder if, I know part of the concern is the debris around the house. Is there any way you can work with your seller to at least get that?
We can certainly
Stuff.
talk with them and encourage them to do that, because they will have something at the end of this. So it would be in their best interest to do that. Yeah, we'll certainly talk with them.
Well, we'd appreciate any help with that you could provide.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else under call to public? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item in the agenda. Old business, we do not have any, so we've got item 4A, consider ordinance to vacate easement in DeSoto School District West Campus.
Yes, council, this is the item I described earlier. Patrick prepared the ordinance that would formally vacate that easement back to USD 232. Steve Dagan is in the audience tonight if you have any questions for him about the project in general. But yeah, by passing the ordinance, the easement will be vacated and they could continue with the work.
Okay. Mr. Dagan, what will be the first show in the new performing arts facility?
That's a great question. Great question.
But the wrong person to ask.
And one you don't have an answer for.
I do not have that answer.
When is it to be completed?
Rob, it'll be ready, actually, completion should be around June of '22, so we should be moving into it for that fall semester.
Fall 22 opening, all right. Any questions pertaining to the easement vacation ordinance?
Lana, what's the ordinance, or the number?
The ordinance number is 2507.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2507, vacating the easement to the USD 232.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Item 4B, consider second amended agreement with DVP LLC relating to excise tax collections for Arbor Ridge and Coker Estates subdivisions.
Yes, council, you'll recall, back some time ago, on a few developments, the council agreed to suspend the excise tax for a period of time to encourage building within the city. One of those developments was the development that Don Parr has been building out in Arbor Ridge. And that agreement that you entered had a 2-year expiration that expired May 1, 2020. And following that expiration, there were additional building permits that were issued by the building department, and they did not collect the excise tax with those. So this agreement, and I've talked to Don Parr, he's fine with it. He indicated that, you know, just with all the busyness, he didn't realize it expired either. But this essentially just extends that suspension period up to February 1, so that the excise tax that was not collected will be forgiven, and moving on from February 1 forward, there will be excise tax that will be collected as with the building permits.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Questions for Patrick from council? So the motion would be to authorize the mayor to sign the amended agreement, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion, we authorize the mayor to sign the second amended agreement with the city and DVP LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes?
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
Okay.
Mayor, if I can just make one other comment, just for the council's benefit. We've been approached by at least one other development, Arcadian Estates, about extending their suspension period. But I think, as Mike I think at the staff level, we just feel like, given the, you know, robust housing market, there really is an interest in extending that. Theirs doesn't expire. I think they have at least another year on theirs, so, but I think,
Okay.
that's, for right now, we're just gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah, I would venture there's probably not a lot of interest. I mean, they haven't moved forward too quickly on it to begin with, and as you said, the housing market is very hot right now, so.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 4C, consider bids for the 91st Street Lexington Roundabout project.
Yes, council, we bid this project on February 18th and received 6 very competitive and favorable bids. Scott Crane with Affinis is online if you have any questions for him about design particulars about the project. But tonight, we are recommending that we accept the low bidder on the project, and that low bidder is Lina Weaver Construction. Their low bid amount was $830,080.55. You might recall that our capital improvements program has $1.1 million in this year for this project. So the 830 is significantly lower than that. It's also about $100,000 lower than the final engineer's estimate for the project, which is around $930,000. So we're very, very pleased with getting that bid. We did check references for Lina Weaver. Affinis was very familiar with them. I was familiar with them. We checked references in Shawnee, Olathe, and Overland Park for recent projects, and the reports are still very favorable to their performance on some of those higher profile projects of theirs. It is a high profile project, and the impact on the busy intersection will be noticeable. So as we've discussed all along, the construction period in the contract documents is focused around the summer months when school is not in session. So all the major parts of construction that will require rerouting, lane changes, and restrictions will be focused during June, July, and the early part of August. At no time will any leg of the intersection be closed for any significant duration. There might be an hour or two here or there. The construction plans have very detailed sequencing for construction management during that time. I'm requesting a 5% construction contingency for the project just because things come up during construction and it's a unit price bid, so the prices could come over. We don't think they will, but they could come over on an item here or there. So I've included a suggested motion down at the end of the staff report authorizing the mayor to enter the construction contract and authorizing a contingency amount of $40,000 from the CIP.
Okay.
So answer any questions you might have about that.
Questions for Mike regarding the bid on the roundabout?
Yeah, I got a question. Your contingency request just seems low at 5% or 40,000. You know, usually you'll have that available if, you know, for
Yeah.
underground unknowns, you know, is that, do you really feel like that's
It's-
enough?
Yeah, it's,
I guess I'd probably be thinking of 10%.
yeah, so I do 10% where we have utilities, because sometimes you get into rock or unknown utilities. I guess there's some utilities here. I guess on the contingency thing, here's the deal. Anything more than $5,000, I'm gonna have to bring back to you at some point.
Unless it's covered in the contingency, right?
Yeah, I don't think our
No, I
emergency
think
policy
he would
allows.
have to bring anything, any
Yeah.
change order over $5,000, I mean, he couldn't.
I'd have to bring it back in.
Right, they
All right.
So as I was writing, I was thinking, man, do I really need this? But
No, I
just
don't.
kind of as an expectation, maybe.
All right.
What it does is
Did-
reserves the money in the CIP budget or tells what we would consider to be available funds in the
Yeah.
CIP
Yeah.
budget for other projects.
The other thing about that is sometimes during the construction, they need an answer, you know, and it might exceed my authority, and that's happened a couple times. And in that event, I'll send an email to the council, I'll say, hey, here's an $8,000 thing. We'll have a change order at the next meeting. If anybody has any problem, let me know, but I have to direct, because it might be 2.5 weeks or so. So, that's the way I've generally handled it. And if we want to change that in the future, give me authorization for more than my spending authorization and the purchasing policy, that's fine. We just don't have that in place right now.
I think we have a policy that we've vetted very long and arduous process through. I
Yeah.
think, I'm not interested in venturing down that path right now.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It just seems, just in terms of what you're reserving there, you know, doesn't take much, particularly when you're digging, when you're underground.
Yeah, yeah.
Something to come up that was unforeseen, but
So would you be happier just moving to make a higher amount?
it doesn't seem like there's interest there.
Well, no, we can change that.
Oh,
No, I wasn't interested in.
no, I would recommend a 10% contingency, put it at 80, or an $80,000 contingency,
I mean,
just,
Because at that point, if all it's doing is reserving the CIP money, then,
it's not saying you're spending it.
yeah, we're
but-
just reserving the CIP for any of the expenditures, so
Yeah.
we don't budget till we have the project done.
I just think in terms of, you know, the reality of understanding of where it could end up, you know, 40,000, you know, something, you dig up something and you go, oh crap, we didn't anticipate this, so, okay. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Lori, did you have a question?
Nope, I'm good with that.
You want to go ahead and make the motion with
Oh,
the?
online, does anybody, do any of our remote council members have a question?
I'm totally good with that. I agree with the increase of it. You know, you have AT&T and the fiber that's on the
Right.
corner, so that would all be good. So yes, I'm for it.
Yeah, and I'll make a motion to accept the low bid for the 91st and Lexington Roundabout project from Lynn Weaver Construction in the amount of $830,080.55 to authorize the mayor to execute the necessary contract documents for the project and to authorize contingency allocation from the capital improvement fund of $80,000.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdock,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
I wasn't against the increased
Oh.
content. I just didn't want to authorize or change our policy.
policy. No, I understand.
I didn't want to take on a policy discussion tonight.
understand.
Especially on that one.
Totally understand.
Yeah. Item D, consider proposals for Phase 2 environmental assessment and appraisal of city property at 8160 Shawnee Street.
Yes, council, if the address isn't familiar, this is the old street department water plant site. We've been kicking around as to what to do with the site here for more than a year now. We formed this subcommittee more than a year ago, and COVID really derailed the discussions last year, but we've recently picked those back up with the subcommittee. We've had a couple of meetings about what to do with the property. Ultimately, in general, the committee has been headed toward a scenario where we solicit interest maybe from developer types in redeveloping the property, with the understanding that that is likely going to involve some sort of a city, maybe a city incentive or city funds toward demolition or giving the property away or something economically to incite the redevelopment. But there's a few steps that we need to take before then. One of them is to follow up on the environmental remediation. In 2019, we had a phase 1 environmental assessment done on the property, and it identified a few areas where there might be subsurface conditions that need to be addressed. And that's the intent of a phase 2 environmental, is to go in and do some soil sampling and determine the extent, if any of that, and make recommendations on the remediation there. So the first item for your consideration is the phase 2 environmental assessment on the property. One thing to note is that, I've got the property shown here on the screen. The Westar substation, none of this equipment that you see in that aerial is there. It was removed last year, I believe, or maybe even before that. I have confirmed with Westar that they don't have any plans to put any more facilities back in there. So they're out of there for good. They've done their own environmental assessment, and they even did some soil samples in the area. They didn't find anything terribly concerning, but they are committed to, if there's any environmental remediation that needs to be done, they're going to do that. So they've started that process, and then after that process, they're willing to vacate the easement back to the city. So essentially, that will be gone, and I don't have a specific time frame on that just yet. I think they'll be well ahead of us in determining finally what we want to do with the property. So the phase 2 environmental assessment that we're doing doesn't include the substation area at all. So so that saved us a little bit. So that proposal is Exhibit B to the staff report, $7,350. I'm asking for your approval on that. The other thing I'm asking, although it's below my spending authority, we discussed with the subcommittee getting an appraisal done on the entire site, with the intent that, that's just information that we need to know if we're going to sell the property, if there's any sort of land transaction done. Oftentimes, if it's not a legal requirement, it's a really good idea for a municipality, if you're going to give away or sell public land, to have an appraisal and make sure that you're not giving away, you're not selling it for less than what it's valued at. So, so in order to accomplish that, we've reached out to Valbridge Appraisals. They're the ones that helped us out with the street department property on Lexington. They helped us out with the park acquisition down across from Riverfest. Got a good relationship with them. I did receive a price proposal. It's an informal proposal, just in an email, for $2,500. So I'd like to move forward with that. And then the subcommittee is meeting on a monthly basis. We have just a monthly meeting set up on Zoom. So we'll try to make progress here in the next several months, and maybe at some point bring some recommendations back for the council to consider. There's a suggested motion in the staff report.
Questions from council?
I might just add a little commentary on the appraisal element. As we talk about what could happen with that property, or how we seek out options for redevelopment of it, one of the things we'll probably talk about is demolition of some or all of the structures that are there. And in the discussions we had, that's going to be an expensive proposition. So we kind of want to know, how is the demolition of those buildings going to impact the value of the property? Are we going to end up spending more to demolish it than the land is worth? And should we demolish it? Should we pay to demolish it to increase the value before we go to market to figure out what somebody might do with it? Or should we work the demolition of it into a redevelopment proposal that may occur? So I think it makes a lot of sense to have this appraisal as some information as we make decisions about other expenditures that we may incur, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Me. Questions? Someone-
Well, then, go ahead. Well, I'll make a motion to, I don't have the right one in front
I'll
of me.
make a motion to accept the proposal from Solid Ground Environmental for Phase 2 assessment in the amount of $7,350 and the proposal from Valbridge Property Advisors for the appraisal in the amount of $2,500.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Next item would be an executive session if we had one, but we don't have one. So we'll go to advisory reports, city administrator.
I have three things, council. I'll make them quick. And answer any questions you might have. Ottawa Street reconstruction in our CIP this year. We have funding for the design of that project to rebuild Ottawa Street from 82nd Street northward to the entrance to Riverfest Park. I'll be getting out an RFQ for engineering consultants for that. I'll be putting that on the Drexel Plan Room tomorrow. So the schedule for that, we'll give the consultants about 3 weeks to get their proposals back. At which time we'd have a committee to evaluate those proposals, and I'd like at least one member of the council or governing body on that. We don't need to decide tonight. We have another meeting to do that yet. After that selection is done, maybe there's interviews, but then we negotiate the scope and fee with the selected firm and then bring that proposal back to the council. Hoping to get all that done possibly by the April 15th meeting to have a proposed contract back to the council for consideration. So the goal is to have that designed this year so that we're ready to bid it out at the first part of next year and get rolling with construction in 2022. You'll remember we got $150,000 from KDOT, and we have applied for another $100,000. I'm sorry, we got $500,000 from KDOT. Applied for another $150,000 from the stormwater management program.
Okay.
So that's our next big adventure on the construction side. The next item I had then was 2021 budget. We've actually started that internally. I forwarded you an email that I sent to the department heads last week that gives a calendar, but essentially we're going to be working on that with department heads and their requests, and then Bonnie and I will spend about 6 weeks putting the draft budget together, and then you will see that for the first time in its draft form on April 15th. What I failed to do in the email that I sent out today was to ask you if you have any particular initiatives or projects or anything out of the ordinary or anything ordinary that you would like to have kind of considered in the formulation of the 2022 budget before you even get the draft. Let me know. Kind of get that feedback like I'm doing from department heads, and so that we have a little bit of direction before you just hit with the draft. We got the Appraiser's Revaluation report earlier this week. And it showed an overall 8.6% increase in DeSoto's assessed valuation, and 1.8% of that is new construction. And those are almost identical to the increased numbers that we saw last year. So again, very strong growth. Less new, I mean, that percentage for new construction I thought was going to be a little bit higher with all the new building that's going on, but it's not. So it was a good report. You know, we're still growing. The tax base is still widening. I did mention in the email to the department heads that our tax base is increasing. The city's in a very, very strong financial position to consider expansion of services. New initiatives, new things the council might consider. We're in a good cash position, really in the utility funds and in the general fund as well. So that opens up some things that we might not have been able to consider in years past. Lastly, the last thing I had was a heads up on 2021 bond issue. We have in our '21 budget, the issuance of $1.1 million for capital improvements bonding. Some of that's for the roundabout project, most of it's for the Ottawa Street project. In addition to that, Columbia Capital provides me with a yearly assessment of our existing debt. And there is about $4.6 million of existing debt that's currently callable. And they've recommended to refinance that debt as part of the new issuance. So we might have a $5.7 million issuance, but reissuing that old debt at a better interest rate, they're projecting an overall lifetime savings of about $720,000 for doing that. So we've got a calendar that initiates that project in May and gets us our money by sometime middle of July, which work well with our CIP cash flow. So those were the three things that I had.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
City Attorney.
Nothing for me, Mayor, thank you.
City Clerk.
Nothing for me, other than I issued one more mobile food vendor license this past week to On the Hook Fish and Chips.
Okay, thank you, Lana. Council comments. Kevin Ritter, you got anything to start us?
Mayor, I think I'm all good. Mike, is there any update on when they're going to mobilize for the bridge closure?
Yeah,
But I'm missed in some of your documents.
Yeah, did you see the social media post we put out last week?
I probably missed it, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, let me forward that post to you off the top of my head. We did get notification from the county. The project has been awarded. The contractor will start.
March 15th.
Is it in the middle of March?
15th or
March
18th is
15th.
in my head.
March 15th is when the closure will start. Now the latest is that they
Yeah,
expect
15th
the
of March.
construction to last 3 months. Before we were told 5. So I'll get you that information, Kevin.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay. Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Honemichael.
Sure. I'll throw a few things out that I've had some communication on. One is the FCC passed broadband assistance recently for, and the parameters for that are, I believe, are families that would apply in DeSoto. So I'd ask Mike to follow up with county resources or whoever it is to figure out what the program is so that we can figure out how to communicate it out to our citizens. But it's similar to some of the other broadband situations. Families on free and reduced lunch can apply. So I'm not sure how it works, but I just asked Mike to see if you could look into that.
Yeah, I haven't had much luck
That-
there. Is that in the new release?
It seems like there's some information out about that already, just from somebody I know that has
Okay.
mentioned it.
It's pretty
So
new.
would have the schools already been working on getting that information out through the schools possibly?
Possibly.
Okay.
This isn't
but-
COVID relief, is it?
No, this
Okay.
is not COVID
New
relief.
program, okay.
Mm-mm. No, it's not part of that. And Lori, if you've got something to.
Well, I mean,
around it.
I just know of someone who knew that it was possible to get help on internet services.
Yeah,
And so I assume it would be it's somebody who, has free and reduced lunches. So I assume that they got that information from either directly the providers in town or the school, or someone. So I can dig into that
If
and
you can-
ask
if
who
you can
they
find someone.
found that out from, and maybe that would be. So if it is, I guess my point is it may already be being shared with those that it applies to. But
okay, good.
unless it's a different project or something.
I am on the County Economic Research Institute board, and we had a meeting probably a week and a half ago now. And they reported year-end sales tax for all the cities in the county. And, DeSoto continues to show very strong and an inflection point of about 2015, and it's been going up ever since. And so Mike and I just had some conversations about it. And one of the things on the call that they were talking about was it's not always traditional retail sales that you think of, but I think one of the things that's buoying DeSoto is home construction as a percentage of our gross domestic product, if you will, as a percentage of our revenue, that we're probably benefiting a lot from sales tax on construction materials that we're not anticipating. And it's probably also purchases at Merck or purchases at Huhtamaki or industrial purchases, engineered air, whatever it may be, that we don't really think of in terms of how it affects our sales tax base. So I think it'd be interesting, and Mike said they've looked into that a little bit more, just to understand how our sales tax breaks down so that we can understand either our vulnerabilities or our opportunities. And I'm not gonna put you on the spot for having looked into that, but
Well,
you mentioned that
remember
you were making some progress.
Yeah, we did. I've got Columbia Capital digging into that, and they promised me some response, some initial conclusions within the month. So
Awesome.
yeah, we're getting close.
So I sent probably a text to Mike on a weekend for when I brought my cardboard to City Hall. So my big Chewy boxes or Chewy.com boxes or whatever. And I'm always impressed and somewhat disappointed when I come here and our cardboard bins are stuffed and the parking lot's covered in cardboard. So it means people are using the drop facility, but it means it's over capacity. And so I asked Mike to just look into it, and I know you have.
Yeah, so talked to Randy Weldon with Honey Creek about that, and Jay. We had a real good problem over Christmas, or right after Christmas, obviously, with that. And it seems like whenever we have this stretch of bad weather, and then there's a good, nice day, especially on the weekends, we get a slug of that. So it's kind of an ongoing thing, and Jay's always trying to police the area. Good thing it's here on site, so we can kind of keep an eye on it and do that policing. But what Randy agreed to do was set out another cardboard recycle dumpster there. They're doing that at no charge. It's not in their contract, but they do that and they empty it 2 or 3 times a week at no charge to us. And so he said if we paid for the new dumpster, that he'd set it out and continue to empty it at no charge. So it's about $1,000. So I said, go ahead and do that. So just so we have the extra capacity on the cardboard side. You mentioned something about paper. Was there?
Well, there's the
paper
paper
recycling?
one that never seems to have a lot in it.
Yeah. So okay. So
It's just taking up parking lot space, but it's.
Well, that's
it's a
Rotary, and that's
Yeah.
that's a fundraiser for the Rotary.
it's different.
And is it beneficial, I presume?
We go back and forth on it all the time because prices go up and down. So when
Yeah.
the prices are good, yes, it's worth it. Sometimes it's not for all the work that the guys that have to do to go in and clean it up
Clean
and
it up.
take over bad stuff. But so far at this point in time, we have not been willing to not do it. It's still hanging in there, so.
Well, I'm impressed that people are using the drop-offs here at City Hall, and really happy then that Honey Creek's doing it at no charge.
Yeah.
So, I was on a Overland Park Economic Development Council presentation over lunch today where they went through the Johnson County Housing Study that RDG did, and Mayor,
I saw you sent me that.
I was typing while I was listening, so I threw some. I didn't know if you're familiar with it, but they've got some really good data. There's really cool maps, but some really good data, and they got 9 pages or so in the report that is DeSoto.
Right.
And so there's some really good info.
Mike was on the
Yeah, I was on
committee.
the technical review committee for the
Right, for that
formulation of
study.
that. It's been about a year now,
Mhm.
meeting every month or so. They've offered to come and present the results of that.
They're just now at the final report fit, right?
Yeah.
We're a month past maybe when they said the final was
Yep.
gonna be done.
Yep. So
Yeah, I think this was promoted as brand new.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, this is kind of the rollout this month. And then, so the next phase is this committee that would kind of help champion the causes that are contained in there and turn the recommendations possibly into some actions, some policies, some actions at the local governing level. And so there's a committee that's formed. That's kind of the next
And that
phase.
was the committee I begged for participation from. We were underrepresented in that
Yep.
body at DeSoto, and I don't know who stepped up to do that for us.
Sarah, maybe?
I think
Sarah did, yeah. Sarah's on
Well,
it.
she would have been a logical one to have had on it.
But I'm not sure if we got anybody else.
Councilman Ritter, can you attest to that?
She is on that, I think Chris Johnson's on it.
Chris
I
Johnson,
think
yeah,
Dave
Dave.
Anderson's on it.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
But that RG company was the same company that we used for the original, DeSoto, work that was done, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, that's right. They've done a few things for us, yeah.
Different company, but same company.
Yep.
Yeah, Julie Brewer, who did the presentation today, man, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
To get a download from her would be awesome. And then the last one, little thing, but again, just a communication that I was included on was the editor-in-chief of the DeSoto High School newspaper emailed me for contacts to do an article about the roundabout. So I gave plenty of names, and I
Yep.
saw that Mike and Whitney were looped into that today.
The mayor
And I
too.
responded to her.
Sweet, I didn't know, but I gave him your name. I didn't know if they got a hold of you or not.
She did, yeah, she reached out.
And the small world thing is it is Steve Chick's granddaughter.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't put that together.
Yeah, that's who's doing the article. That's all I've got. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Rob?
Not much, other than Mike mentioned the property values being up by about 8%, but I've been seeing and hearing a lot about much higher property increases than that. And
That's an average.
I know I opened mine from my mailbox this morning and saw a 27% increase on our property.
Wow.
So that's just been something that we'll hear discussed or mentioned at some point from some homeowners.
You're going to help the capital improvement plan.
Maybe stop mowing? I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe never mind.
That's the challenge of being in, or benefit of being in a hot real estate market. We're just seeing such.
Yeah, because I've heard comments and had people make comments, but now that they're actually being mailed out and people are seeing the real numbers. So,
Okay, anything else, Rob?
Nope.
Lori?
I don't think I have anything, but I will say, we're in this time when everybody's buying online, so there's more cardboard and boxes to go. And they're also, what is that, tax that you get from online sales, so that's keeping our, not excise, it's called
Sales tax.
Use tax.
Use tax.
use tax, so we're getting higher taxes from the sales that everybody's buying online,
now that
so.
it's actually being forced collection.
Well, I did say it was my Chewy.com boxes.
You did, and so, those are probably big boxes, so, but no, Mayor, I do not have anything
All
tonight,
right.
thank you.
I have one item. The fire district has, through Mac McDaniel, the chair, has asked if we would have any interest in selling the city property across from the vet's office. We have, I don't know what it is. Mike, can you pull that up on Ames? It's got 5.6 acres there. Some of it's in a detention basin and some of it's out.
Yeah, I think there's at least 3.5 that's probably usable.
Yeah, I throw numbers around like I know what I'm talking about when I really don't always know.
Looks like this center parcel here is 3.6.
Is that all
this-
right of way then north of that up to the street?
Yeah,
So it could be, probably be a little bigger vacating some of that excess right of way. And then I don't know what the limit of that some of that's
kinda
inundated.
probably-
Maybe you turn on the floodplain.
I just did, it's not, doesn't come up this tall, this
Oh.
far. That's about 3.8 acres
Yeah.
in the red there. And
I
that
just,
is leaving
I
room.
brought it, so I said I would poll the group to see if we had, I think long-term, we had planned that there might be some sort of pocket park or some other public use there. Obviously, the fire station would fit into that category of a public use. I just, do we have any, before they invest any time and effort in seeing whether or not it would actually work for them, I think they wanted to find out if there was any interest from the governing body in parting with that piece of property.
I drive by that piece every day and kind of wonder why we're not doing something with that. Of course, Lana's brother comes and tells me once a week that I need to get us to do a dog park walking trail in there, that all it would take is to, take a weed eater and knock down a few things for a trail in there.
Duct tape.
But so I go by there a lot. I know at one point when I had some people talking to me about low-income housing and stuff, we kind of had brought that section as something that the city actually owned, because we don't obviously have a lot of property for things like that, but it didn't seem to really work size-wise for something like, multi-use housing. So it does seem like it might be a good location, though, for fire services, kind of quick to get on Lexington and get kind of all directions of town,
Kind
so.
of central to
It
the,
various, yeah, real central, and, yeah, so I wouldn't be opposed of looking at it, and I suppose, just like anything else with the last one we talked about, we might need to do some kind of a appraisal of it or something to see what
we probably,
we're looking
yeah,
at,
if,
Right.
yeah, I would think.
you know.
Kevin Ritter, you had to comment.
Yeah, I just noticed that, right, I spoke to their, chief, earlier, and, he mentioned this, and, you know, I think they've gotta have a new spot, but they've done a lot of thought about staying central in downtown and some time studies, so I think they put a lot of effort into looking in this area. You know, the other two pieces of parcel on the other side of the railroad bridge around, the Dollar Tree, I don't think they're big enough for them. You know, they might have a little bit of space to build on, but I don't know if they would be big enough or not. If they would consider, I don't know what they're looking at size-wise, but those would be two other pieces of property. The one that's on the south side of Dollar General would probably be more useful. But we still have those over, Mike.
Yeah, those are still in right of way. The south of Dollar
Pretty
General
small.
is real small.
Pretty small. But either way, they were but he talked about a lot of research that they've done, so but they didn't want to further that without some kind of motion or direction from us. I support it. They need something that's central and new.
I'm open to supporting it. It'd be a good place. The only question I have, and you guys might be, would there need to be traffic control for them to be able to exit as far as the visibility because of the bridge coming out of there?
Yeah, we need to look carefully at
To
that.
where there'd have to be basically like some of the fire stations have a stoplight or something that activates when they need to pull out, or just because of the sight lines and visibility of the elevated bridge?
Or maybe they come out on Commerce.
Yeah,
Bob?
That would be something that we would look into.
Okay.
I would say they probably actually exit onto Commerce. That way you've got
That's what
access.
I thought. Then you
Yeah, I
can
think that'd be
see-
the logical site config.
Right.
Okay.
Rather than a direct hit out on,
Yeah.
safer for them to leave their
Yeah.
facility and then they're visible when they're pulling out there in the intersection.
It's a good central place, so.
It's already not on the tax rolls.
Mike, if you remember, we treated this piece for the piece that Tri-Century owns, right?
Yeah, way back.
To be built.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I don't know if they'd be able to break that, but that might have been a much more line of sight place. But that was the piece of property slotted for that. When that property was condemned.
Okay. I think you got, I mean, I don't know what you guys want. I don't know that we'd make a formal motion, but I think there's support here for you. The only thing I'd caution on, I know that south part, there's some detention, so it's like where the top level of that berm along there is kind of where that might flood to. Just keep in mind that, I don't know what elevation that's at, but that south third of that or so might be out of play, for a usable space.
We'd have to have a study done on that, to see what the floodplain is and so forth.
Yeah, I would presume, some site configuration studies would be
Right.
one of the next things you do to see if it even works for you, but, yeah.
But
We are running out of space real quick like, and we've got another truck coming. And, we just sold one of our trucks and because I think we had it down there at the old water plant.
Okay.
Mike, we just replaced all the lights at the station uptown this last week. We put in all new, thin panel LEDs. Made a world of difference. You can see there. But we do appreciate your taking the time to talk about it.
Okay. You have our support to go forward. I think that was all I really had tonight, I think. There's probably something else, but I don't remember what it was, so.
Mayor, I hate to add another item that I
Go
forgot
ahead.
during my report. It shouldn't take too long. While we're in the neighborhood here, We have had a request from the owner of this property here, so this is at Penner and Lexington, to vacate a part of this right-of-way so that he wants to put a fence in his backyard, and he doesn't, this is just kind of an awkward yard arrangement there. So he's requested us to vacate, and I think I'll just kind of draw on here about how something like this, just to get him a little more usable space, I guess, out from the corner of his house. Initially, it didn't seem like it would at all affect anything that we could possibly want to do here. We have been mowing this up to approximately where the property line is now. So he'll take over maintenance of that little sliver. But he's asked, and we've told him that, you know, there's a process, public hearing process. He'll have to get surveys and easements written up, and or vacation right of documents drawn up for us, and then we'll have to consider that. But I just thought, if you have any thoughts on this, either now or in the next week or so, let me know. I kind of want to represent to him that there is a chance that the council would consider something like this. Before he goes and spends the money it's going to take to do it. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know.
I mean, I guess the obvious question is, I mean, land has some value. Is he offering anything, or just, does he just want that donated?
Yeah, I think the initial offer would be just donated. Yeah.
That would be my only question.
Right.
And I think that's the question we'd all have to ask ourselves, is there some value? I mean, I understand we probably don't need that, but,
Yeah.
you know.
But you can't start giving a little bit of away to one, and then the next person over there
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
it bigger, and the next
The
person.
fair,
so.
the fair way would certainly be that we would sell them that little piece for an appropriate value, because
Right.
then the neighbor, you know, who's to say the neighbor next door doesn't just go, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you just gave away, and then other people, you know.
Just as a reminder, it's not written, but the way we've handled vacation requests in the past is if someone's coming with a project and they need the room to do some sort of economic development project, or we consider, and we have granted vacations for that where there's excess right-of-way that's not needed. Others that just come and want to plant asparagus in a garden, we've not done those.
Is that land on Lexington usable? Or is it a grade where it's not really usable?
For his yard, I mean,
It's
the
pretty-
slopes
it's
look pretty
nice.
good back to that brown strip right there
Yeah.
where Mike's mouth is.
Yeah.
Um,
It's nice and open, yeah, it's nice, flat, usable ground, it is. The only thought, you know, I mean, is in terms of some ultimate future reconfiguration
What
of
if we wanted to
this,
put a big flat roundabout right there?
yeah, or a double-decker roundabout or something, it's still, there's still plenty of room
Yeah.
for something like that.
Okay.
Well, I think what I heard is you're willing to consider, but we probably would want some payment toward that end. And if he wants a more affirmative confirmation of that, then we'll have him ask officially. I think that's enough for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the end of your
Yes,
second
I'm sorry
round
to
of
have to
reports,
do
Mike?
that, yes.
All right.
Anybody
Well-
else have second rounds?
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're